Well, hi everyone, and welcome to Frank's Wood Designs. This is Frank, and this is a series of videos on my build for my base cabinets along the north side wall of my shop. This is video number 4, and today we're going to be working on some exterior cabinets that are going to be off to the right of the chop saw and to the left of the radial arm saw. Then I'm going to do 4 sets of cabinets on the other side of the window, which would give me, actually I didn't measure it, it would give me quite a long length to, a long fence to use for my radial arm saw. And then I'm probably going to have close to 25-30 feet to the left of my chop saw. So today is going to be a cabinet build of 6 cabinets. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the first thing I did is I broke down all the plywood. So I took the sheets of plywood, I put it down onto my, my insulation board, used a track saw and broke them down. Then I did the dimensional cutting on the table saw. So I'm not doing videos of that. You've seen thousands of videos like that. So I've got them set up. I've got 2 different types of plywood. One is from a lumber company, and it's a little bit more expensive. I got some from a box store. Box stores, I've never had really good luck with it, but this batch, and I believe this is American plywood, I was actually pretty impressed with for the price. As you can see, not many voids in the ply. I've kind of got a mark there with some X's, so I knew which one was which plywood was which. Yeah, I've got, that looks like it's more of a mark than it is a void. Surprisingly, I've got a little bit more void in the more expensive plywood, which I haven't seen before when I've gotten plywood from this same company in the past. Anyway, that's why I got 2 sets of piles here. The boards are all the same size. They're about 38 3/8 inch high and 32 inches deep, which is consistent with the other cabinets. And I've already done all my dadoing for the 1/4 inch plywood that'll go into the back of the cabinet. Now, I really put some thought process through this once I got the plywood broken down. And you see the blue painter's tape. This is a process I use to help me keep straight. I don't make a bad cut. And it also helps me in the end say, okay, what do I want for the outside of my cabinet? So, example, I took a look at this cabinet, this board, and said, okay, which side do I want to have on the outside? So once I figured out what I want for the outside, then I went and got ready to put my tape on. Then I went to the 2 sides and said, okay, are there any voids? Obviously, this one has, you know, it's a small void, but it's got a void. Get it zoomed in here. So being that that side had a void, and when I took a look at the other side, really there isn't any voids. Therefore, I put the blue tape on this side, which is the outside of my cabinet, and I put it on the side that I want to do the dado, because that's going to be the back of the cabinet. So when you go up to the table saw, and I did 2 passes to create this dado instead of putting in the stacked dado head cutter, there's a constant theme here. I always want to see blue tape up, and I always want the blue tape on my left hand, because the fence is on the right side and the saw blade's on the left. So as long as I got blue tape up and the blue tape is in my left hand, I'm making the correct cut, I'm making the correct dados, I have the correct back that I want and the correct front that I want, okay? Then you got to kind of think through that same thing when you're getting ready to cut your toe kicks, because you don't want to have an outside and an outside being on the inside. I'll kind of show you that when we get to there. So this is all done. They're all marked. They've got all their blue tape. My next step is just go ahead and make the base frames to attach these sides to. So let me go ahead and get started with that. So I'm going to continue to cut out the toe kicks. So I've got these 2 boards, which will be 1 cabinet. They're put down face down inside to each other, so the 2 outside is here and here. clamp this down to my table. Okay, so now I gotta clamp down to my table, and I'm gonna take my little measuring block. I'm gonna go ahead and mark it at 4 by 3.5. Okay, that's marked. Next thing I do, keep going in front of the camera here, is I'll score the line just for the sake that I do not have any breakout. And apply it. Okay. Next, I take my angle, and we're going to go ahead and make the cut first with my circular saw. Okay. And we'll do the other side. Okay. So I do that. Now I'm going to use my jigsaw to finish it up. We're done. And that's how I do the toe kicks. Then I'll take my ratchets off. And this cabinet is done. All right, so I have all the pieces cut for my base frame that the sides get screwed to. These are all the common ones. They're 28 inches deep. That goes from the back of the cabinet to the front. And then I've got 3 different sizes for the front and back, which is based on the width of each of the cabinets. So I've got one cabinet, there's a second cabinet, and then these other 4 are common. So I've got those done, and I did the pocket holes. Those are done. I ran out of the pine, so I'm using plywood for the side, or for that frame, and that works just fine as well. This way, I want to use up all the scrap pieces that I have from the cutoffs of the sheets of plywood. So now I'm going to start doing the assembly for these frames. All right, now the frames are done, all put together, pocket hole screwed, and turned out pretty good. So these are all done. Now all I gotta do is marry up the sides now to all the cabinets, and we'll continue getting these things made. Okay, so here's how I put them together. So I've got the frame that goes along, and I take the plywood skin, and I get it flush to the top where the toe kick is, And then I initially just put some brads in just to kind of hold it. And since I'm going to make this cabinet to be the outside cabinet, I want to make sure that I put my screws on the inside of this frame. And therefore, you won't see any screws on the outside here or the other side. The other cabinets I did, sorry, I got the hiccups. I put the screws in here because it doesn't matter because you're not going to see them. But this cabinet on the outside, you're going to see it. So that's how I put it together. And then I'm getting ready to go and put on my levelers. So I'll flip this thing on its side and attach the leveler here. And like I do on all four corners, that way they're in the same position. So that's pretty much how I get this cabinet built, from the frame base, put the skins on, put the levelers on, and then later continue on with the rest of the build out. Okay, so I've got the sides attached now to the bases. Hi there, Mr. Highland, Austin. I have the sides attached to the bases on all the cabinets, all 6 cabinets. And I want to show you a little bit of a trick. Some of you may know this already, but for those who don't, I'll show it. In order to put this groove into these large sheets of plywood, I typically, for safety reasons, put this side against my fence, measure the distance to the saw blade, and that's when I make the curve. So then this short piece is on the side that's opposite of the fence, and then I move it over and make my second pass to get my 1/4 inch. But typically on the smaller width boards, and these are the boards for the bottom of each of these cabinets. And again, in order to not waste the plywood and use every ounce of the sheet of plywood I have, the bottoms on these will be 2 pieces, okay? So I'm currently cut the back pieces and put the holes in the back pieces for the levelers. And I already did the first pass on these boards for these cabinets for the groove, the 1/4 inch groove. So I only have right now currently an 1/8 inch groove. Well, but let me show you a trick. I'll put the camera on a tripod and I'll kind of show you a trick that when you have that smaller end going to be up against the fence, now you get a common size, which is the thickness of your plywood. So let me put this on a tripod and zoom in and show you what I mean. Okay, so if the smaller piece, as I showed you, of the plywood is going to have the groove, so this is going to be the smaller piece is going to be up against that fence, then to get that measurement perfect, all you have to do is take the piece of wood, in this case, here's the piece of my plywood, and put it up against the fence and bring it up to the saw blade like this, tighten it, move it down, and it should just barely touch and move the blade. Now when you make the first pass, that first pass is consistent on every board for a thickness of this plywood, okay? And the reason why I do that is because when I slide my 1/4 inch back onto each of these cabinets, I want to be able to put a cleat on the back at the very top so I could screw into the wall once I had the cabinets leveled. Alrighty, so I've got the bases now mounted to the inside of all of my cabinets, and as I said earlier, what I'm doing so I don't waste any plywood, pretty much 2 sheets or 2 sides of a cabinet is 1 sheet of plywood. So the cutoffs that come from it this is part of the cutoff. So this way I can use 2 pieces of plywood, screw them in, put the holes in for the levelers, and you're really not going to see this because on top of this are going to be shelves that will actually pull out and roll out and then roll back in. So, if I open up the cabinet and pull the shelf out, yeah, I might see that. But for a shop, it's no problem. This way I'm not wasteful, and it's a lot cheaper I can use pretty much the whole sheets of plywood by doing this. The rest of the cutoffs from the plywood I'll probably end up using to build the shelves. So instead of 1/2 inch shelves, I'll have 3/4 inch shelves that I pull out. So this way, again, I use up every piece of plywood for this project. So those are done. Now I've got to go and cut the cleats that go across here, because I'm going to do 3 cleats across, one in the front, one in the middle, one in the back. Then I got to put the groove on the one in the back for the 1/4 inch plywood. And then I got to start cutting the 1/4 inch plywood and slide them in. Put my pocket holes in all of the cleats and glue, screw, and that'll be it. And then I can put these in position. So let's go ahead. I got a lot of cutting and ripping to do to get those cleats made. All right, so I've got all the cleats all cut, and I've got the pocket holes all put into the cleats, and I did the groove for the 1/4 inch plywood for one of each of the cabinets. So there's a total of 6 cabinets, so I've got 6 boards that are cut. So let's go ahead and assemble the large 31 inch cabinet and show you how to put it together. All right, so I slid the back. As you can see, the back for this cabinet has been cut to size, and just kind of fitting it into the bottom. There we go. Okay, so it's fitting into the 1/4 inch groove I have here and the 1/4 inch groove that I have over here. So if you can see, I've got a gap here of about 1/2 inch on the top and bottom, and what that's for is, here is the back cleat where I've got that 1/4 inch groove cut into the back of this cleat, and it's positioned 3/4 inch in the back. So really all I have to do is position that, get it inside, and it is now fit flush. So let me take the camera off the mount and I'll show you. Okay, so you can see here, the board's a little wobbly because I haven't secured it yet, but here's the groove for the plywood, the 1/4 inch backer that slipped down, and this board is now on. And as you can see, it's flush to the top and it's flush to the back, which is what I want. Same thing on this side. So once I glue and pocket hole screw this, it'll pull everything in, and the plywood will be 1/4 inch into the plywood at the sides, the top, as well as the bottom. Okay, well, once I glue and screw this back cleat, obviously it makes the back of the cabinet pretty solid. Then I'll put one in the center, which is that 16 inch center, and I'll put one at the front. Okay, I tell ya. So let's go ahead. I'll get my my cart over here with all my screws, screw gun, glue, and let's start putting these cabinets together. All right, the cabinets are assembled. So I've got the 4 cabinets done, which are going to go to the far left of the radial arm saw on the opposite side of the window. So those are done. They're all the same identical size. And let's just go ahead and walk through the shop. I'm not going to cut the video. I got the 21 inch cabinet. That's done. That's going to go to the right of the chop saw next to the window. And then I've got the 37 inch wide large cabinet, and that is going to go to the left of the radial arm and actually be attached attached to the cabinet of the radial arm saw. And that's our little foster girl Sassy. Hey, Sassy. She's been kind of keeping track of me and managing and looking over me. So they turned out good. You know, I had little tiny issues here and there with some of the milling of the grooves for the 1/4 inch plywood, but they're only off like a 64th of an inch. So got them all labeled. I typically will label my stuff on the shop in the back, so that whenever I'm old and gray and passed away and somebody else takes it over, they know where the cabinets were built. So next step is to get these cabinets put into place. Once I have them in place, I'll probably wrap up the video with the placement and tell you what our next steps are for the next video in this series. Well, now the cabinets are now in place, so we'll start from the right far end of the window. I've got that 21-inch cabinet. I still need to make the cabinet that goes in here. It's basically going to attach to the chop saw cabinet in the 21-inch cabinet, and it's going to be either 1 or 2 drawers. So this way I can have a box I can roll in and out of here for my scrap cutoffs. Here are the first set of 3 cabinets I did. I believe that was in part 3. The cabinet for the radial arm saw. The big wide cabinet that will either hold templates for the table saw, potentially table cutoff saw table. I've got also a lot of long woodpeckers angles that I could put inside here. So it'll be most likely several drawers, and then the 4 23-inch cabinets that are going to go right there. So that's the bank completed. So, of course, with Sassy still looking in on me. So, looks pretty good. I like them. Everything fits. So, on to the next steps. So, we are now complete. All the cabinets have been built. They are now in place. And so the next step that I have to do on this cabinet build out for my north wall on these base cabinets is to level out both the chop saw and the radial arm saw so that they're square, plumb, and level. And then from there, I'm going to start leveling all my cabinets to those 2 specific cabinets, because those are the critical ones, like I said in the first part video, that have to be perfectly level to each other. So the rest of the cabinets then can be moved up or down. And being that I've got levelers on all the cabinets, that's good. I can level out the specific cabinet or a corner, because as you all know, floors for our shop, whether it's in a garage, whether it's an old barn, whether it's a specially built shop like I did when I built this shop for my wood shop, you know what, that concrete is just not level. I've got one cabinet that's sitting on the crack, the saw crack. You know, that's not exactly level. But those levelers are great because they're on all 4 corners of every cabinet, and I can level out those cabinets to each other. Once I've got them level, square and plumb, I'll screw them together so then they'll end up being one long bank of cabinets. They'll be secure. I'll screw a couple screws in the cabinets, probably 1 per cabinet, into the wall. Use a shim if I need to, if it's a little bit away from the wall. And these cabinets will be rock solid secure. So that I'm not going to videotape because that's just going to be me on my hands and knees, a big heavy set guy crawling into a cabinet. So trying to make the levelers work. I'm not going to go videotape that. This is going to be the end of this part video. The next part in this series, actually next 2 parts I have to do is we're going to create the top for these cabinets, And that'll be a torsion box top. I believe my plan said I'm doing like a 2.5 or 2 3/4 inch top. I'll have a 2-inch overhang so I can clamp to it. It will have routed T-tracks in it because I need to make a long fence that I can go and have from the chop saw to the radial arm saw. And then probably the biggest build out is going to be all the shelves that I'm going to actually pull out shelves on slides that'll go into each one of these cabinets. So once I do that, I'll build those out of my leftover scrap plywood. And so they'll be pretty heavy constructed built shelves, like I guess I would build everything. But then on the face, I'm going to do what I've been doing in this whole shop build out. It'll be a birch plywood center, and then it will have a 2-inch strip of Padauk around every single drawer. And then I'll use the satin stainless steel pulls like I've been using in the rest of the shop. So I got them on sale. They're a little bit off from each other in color and style, but they're the exact same model, just the satin color is a little bit different on each. So that is going to take a long time to get those built. I'll be doing some sanding on the outside of the end cabinet so that I can finish them with some polyurethane, probably 2 to 3 coats of hand rub polyurethane. I am not going to, for these cabinets, I'm not going to be doing any finishing on the inside. I will on the door faces. That would be that birch with the trimmed out Padauk. And then that will be pretty much done. So I'm looking forward to getting this project completed. It's been a long time. I've been wanting to get this thing done. And I've been glad that you've been able to follow me on my journey of getting these base cabinets completed for my wall and getting them installed. So thanks for watching my video. I'm Frank. This is Frank's Wood Designs. If you would please subscribe, like the video if you liked it, and keep on coming back and watch the next few series to finish this out, or a few videos to finish out this series. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day. See you later.
Bye.